Court will come to order. It is Monday, October the 24th, 2022. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and the Kerr County Commissioners Court is now in session. With that, would you please rise for the pledge and prayer, which will be led by Commissioner Ballew.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we thank you for the rain. We appreciate it. We ask that you would guide these proceedings, help us to remember that you're in charge, and to remember who we are. We ask for your help, and we appreciate it. We ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to remind everybody to turn your phones to silence or vibrate or off. We don't want phones interrupting the proceedings. Okay, we have some folks that want to address the court in the public input part of the agenda. We'll call them off in the order that they were presented. First is Fred Henneke. And for those of you that don't know, he's our former county judge.
Good morning, everyone. Fred Henneke, 2595 Van Der Highway, just outside the city limits, towards Comanche Trace. I am a member of the citizens supporting Kerr County legally constituted special public action committee supporting the bond issue that is on the ballot. I remind everyone early voting began this morning. I first came to Kerr County in 1973 to get married. Married a local girl, actually got married in the old sanctuary at First Presbyterian Church. 19 years later, my wife and I, our 3 sons, moved from Dallas to a summer vacation home about a quarter of a mile past Camp Mystic out in Hunt. Amazing, beautiful place. What a difference from Dallas it was. Kerr County accepted us, sustained us, loved us, supported us, and provided us with an amazing place in which to live, work, worship, and raise our family. And I want to continue that in the future with your children, my children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. The committee that was formed by this Commissioners Court almost 3 years ago exactly has worked diligently to come up with proposals to solve critical issues about capital improvement owned by the county. We want to do things like continue to provide facilities for 4-H to flourish, to provide a classroom, a conference room, and a kitchen, which they can schedule and then go and have their lessons and classes and enjoy the fruits of that amazing program. I stand with former County Judge Pat Tinley in making the statement that I never had a juvenile come before me in juvenile court who participated in 4-H. We want to provide facilities going forward for 20 or 30 years to continue that tradition and even expand it. We want to provide a permanent home in West Kerr County for a courthouse annex. By a law, the Justice of the Peace and Constable for Precinct 4 have to have their offices in Precinct 4 in West Kerr County. For years, the citizens of West Kerr County have enjoyed a tax office annex out there where they could go pay their taxes, take care of their cars, their license plates, and all that. Additionally, the new West Kerr County annex that we propose will have facilities for the Sheriff's Department, where the deputies patrolling West Kerr County can go, check their emails, do their reports, file them electronically, meet with people. It will enhance amazingly the ability of the Sheriff's Department to safely protect West Kerr County. Additionally, we're proposing an animal shelter that will be humane to satisfy the demands of the state in taking care of stray animals that come into the possession of the county. The only way to describe the current facility is inadequate and inhumane. And we have the land, the county has the land and the plans to create a facility that will take care of those animals and the owners who love them. Additionally, we're going to have a storage building. The state mandates that many records have to be kept in perpetuity. Sheriff's Department records, county clerk records, deeds, tax records, license plate records. Additionally, the election equipment must be kept safely and securely by law. We are proposing a facility to do that. We're also proposing to enhance the security options here in the courthouse. I love Kerr County. It's my home. Been here now for 30 years. I intend to stay here for the rest of my life. I want this county to continue to be able to provide the care and comfort and opportunity that is provided to me and my family for 30 years. The bond issue that's proposed and is before the voters right now gives the county employees and the county citizens the opportunity and the ability to continue to flourish. And I ask for you to vote for each of the three propositions, which you'll find at the end of the ballot when you go to vote in this general election.
Thank you. We ran a little over on that one. The next member of the public to speak is Chris Hughes, who is the president of our ESD number 1, I think.
Yes.
I tried to write it down so I could stay in 3 minutes. Chris Hughes, 550 Indian Creek Road, also a member of the Capital Improvements Planning Committee, speaking in support of the bond. So the panel of citizens, us, provided recommendations to address these critical infrastructure and safety needs for the county. You've agreed, and the bond proposals on the upcoming ballot are the cheapest and quickest, smartest way to fix these critical issues. But some are actively campaigning against it. I think it's important to understand the truths and consequences if these bonds do not pass now. So what are the taxpayers going to be asked to bear if the bonds do not pass? Waiting means fighting inflation, rising interest rates. Just a 1-year delay increases the net cost of these projects by $6.8 million, and it only goes up from there in future years. At the courthouse, compliance with the unfunded mandate to expand the jury room is not optional. Not done, county risks being ineligible for state grants that last year totaled $1.5 million. Annex required by law in West Kerr County. Ingram's old building is available for 3 years only, and extending that lease is not an option. Purchasing that 100-year-old building is going to be a money pit for the county. So the county needs to start a real solution now to meet this deadline. 40 years of deferred maintenance has created usability and safety issues at the Ag Barn. Without improvements, soon you'll have to decide whether or not events can continue to be held at that facility. And that includes the Junior Livestock Show that put $1.1 million into our kids' pockets last year. We'd also continue forfeiting $2.5 to $5 million in local economic impact from events that decide to go elsewhere. Current animal service facility is overcrowded, inefficient, and inhumane. Minor remodeling is not going to resolve the core operational deficiencies. Opposition agrees with almost $9 million of these projects, and that doesn't include the cost for anything we're going to do in the West Kerr Annex. But they haven't really given a clear explanation of how they're going to be paid for. Grants don't exist for these projects. Volunteer labor is not realistic, nor is it recommended. And I doubt this court's going to be eager to put together some tax anticipation notes on a bunch of projects the voters just rejected. So that leaves two paths before us: the bonds and paying out a budget. Taxes will increase under both paths for this county. With the bonds, we can start these critical projects now while interest rates and costs are as low as they will be for a long time. All 6 projects will be done within 3 years, and the average taxpayer cost will only be $862 a month. Totals about $2,300 over 20 years. Without the bonds, any projects must be paid out of an already tight budget. But while you're trying to save the cash, you're fighting inflation, wasting money, and not enjoying the benefits of facilities you could already be using. To pay out a budget, property taxes must increase at the maximum rate every single year for the foreseeable future. At the end of 20 years, there will be only 2 projects completed. First one begins in 10 years. And the taxpayers will each have paid an average of $10,300 each. The bonds are the smart, responsible choice. Passing Props A, B, and C is 5 times cheaper and provides 3 times the benefit of voting no. The time is now, and voting no is actually a vote for even higher taxes. I encourage everyone to get the facts at kerrcountybond.org. Encourage everyone to vote for Props A, B, and C.
Thank you. Next speaker is John Sheffield.
Doing all right? Morning, gentlemen, Commissioner, Your Honor. Thank you for your time. I didn't know who all was going to be here today, so I'm the owner of the Old England Grocery. I live at 204 Verde Park Boulevard in Center Point. I've been at the Old England Grocery for 22 years, gentlemen. And for those 22 years, we paid the taxes and the inventory taxes of this county. That building is 75 years old. I'd love to have another building. I'd love to have another roof. But some of us don't have the resources that others do. Now, I know Mr. Hughes. He's my next door neighbor. Like Chris a lot. People are a little more interested in putting food on their table, gentlemen. Okay? Instead of going up higher. Not only do we have a wage adjustment of 5% at the county, when people, I understand everybody out there, let me back up, everybody out there is paying more. But when you're in business, you're making less money to pay that more. And what I really don't appreciate, getting around to it, is I know we have a bond election, and I know we have some opposing positions. But I'm going to read, this came to me from the Secretary of State, and it's under the Ethics Commission 255.003, unlawful use of public funds and political, advertising. An officer or employee of a political subdivision may not knowingly spend or authorize the spending of public funds for political advertising. B, subsection A does not apply to the communication that factually describes the purposes of a measure if the communication does not advocate or defeat passage or defeat of the measure. An officer or employee of a political subdivision may not spend or authorize the spending of public funds for a communication describing a measure if the communication contains information that the officer or employee knows is false and is sufficiently substantial and important as to the reasonable likelihood to influence a voter or vote for or against the measure. Now, we had a press release on August 15, Kerr County. And I'm not going to mention any names, but it sure seems like it was in the advocating for this bond. And it talks about needs, it talks about wants. The county realizes local families are feeling the impact. There's more. I'm not going to go into more. But gentlemen, just like I have to at the store, we need to live within our means. I understand these wants, needs, however you want to argue it back and forth. The problem is we're in a pickle right now, all of us, and we're feeling it. And I appreciate your time, and have a good day.
Next speaker is George Baruti.
Thank you. To shift gears a little bit, so we're not going to talk about the bond, but we are going to talk about unfunded mandates, as it were. So a couple weeks ago, the city of Kerrville created something called a Public Facility Corporation. I'll just start calling it a PFC. And they characterized it as a tool to incentivize creation of affordable housing, essentially apartments. Nobody would be against building more affordable housing. We need that. Okay, that's fine. But the most prominent incentive in this tool is 100% property tax exemption, which includes not just the city's taxes, but the county's and the school district's taxes, given to the authority of this corporation, which essentially is creating an unfunded mandate to each of those other taxing entities, this one included, which is mine as well. Now, there's not really a need to discuss here, it's not the time or the place, whether this will produce truly affordable housing or not. But what I wanted to address is just that aspect of one city, one taxing entity having the, it's actually a legal authority to exempt fully the property taxes which affect this body as well as KISD in substantial ways. And I've already spoken with a couple of you. I came here to ask questions. You guys are, Open Meetings Act allows you to answer factual questions. You're going to choose not to, so I'm going to ask them anyways, just so you know. No answer. I've looked at the record. It's not here, but basically, has this did this body have any discussions individually or in a public meeting, or get notified by the city's intentions with this public facility corporation? And we can all look at the record, and the answer is no. Has this body discussed the idea of allowing the city to unilaterally exempt Kerr County taxes permanently on a development? You can look at the record, and the answer is no. Did the commissioners discuss their support in a meeting for this type of a structure to be given to the city? The answer is no. Interestingly enough, when we asked the questions at the city when they were creating this, the answer was yes. They said basically that discussions have been had with the school board and the commissioners, and they said specifically that the school district was in support of this. When I went to the school board to ask them that, I was given a resounding no. They had not. So as it stands right now, the city is running forward with a proposition that essentially exempts 100% property taxes on residential properties without any control being given to anybody else. As we've spoken about the bond, we're talking about bringing on new expenses. When you're talking about new apartments, and to be clear, the city has said that we need 3,000. Their study shows we need 3,000 new housing units. Consider if all of those housing units were done under this program, no property tax coming in from them. That's millions of dollars annually, not just one time, it's annual, that would be lost to the community in taxes. So I would encourage this body to consider having a discussion openly from this body, deciding whether you're for or against this, and convey that information to the city as they move forward with something that affects us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the only people that signed up to speak to the court today. So we'll go to commissioners' comments. Let's start with precinct 1.
Glad for the rain. I don't have anything else really to say.
It wasn't that much, but it was something.
I wish it was more. About a month ago, I was the only commissioner available, and I went out to the jail because the state inspector was there and accepted the report, and it was a 100% positive report, which is a rare thing. And I wanted to congratulate the sheriff and the staff of the jail.
And just to footnote that, the 4 years that I've been county judge, we've had the same good report each time.
Good.
So we're proud of what you're doing. Go ahead.
Two things. One, I was going to do this before Paige showed up, happened to Bryant Williams' daughter. I was going to just, again, commend the 3 individuals that were recognized by the city, Bryant Williams, Digger Gray, and Bobby Jones. Bryant was my boss at Exxon, and probably had a huge, he had a huge influence on how I conducted business, how I learned management skills and things of that nature. And he and I became good friends when I was at Exxon. We used to, in the early days, Exxon threw large parties in the offices. We kind of cut that out, but they were very lavish and very fun parties. We used to be able to fly first class back then too, but that was cut out shortly after that too. But I remember one time I thought that I could drink scotch along with Bryant.
Did he disabuse you of that night?
And I remember the next morning he came by my office at 7:15, which was our starting time, and he had a big smile on his face. He just says, "If you're going to party with me, you better be here on time." Anyway, great man, good friend, and well deserved that award.
Yeah.
Another comment I'd make is it's kind of a general comment. It's when people are reading things on websites and papers about the bond issue, verify some things. Everything written is not true. Things are exaggerated. Things are misguided at times. This isn't a statement for or against the bond issue. It was just saying, you need to be careful what you read. People can print anything they want, and there's no really accountability to it. So beware. That's it.
Well, I'll feed off your deal. My uncle used to fly for Exxon and fly the executives around, so he probably flew y'all around at one point.
He didn't fly me. He might have flown Brian around.
Well, he started out with Humble Oil and then it transitioned into Exxon. I just want to point out a couple things coming up. Friday at Ingram Tumor Stadium, they're having a tailgate party. It starts at 5, which is kind of a fun deal. The next day, Centerpoint has a fish fry starting at 4 o'clock, a fundraiser for them over there, as well as Tierra Linda's having one at the same time. I believe theirs is barbecue. And they'll both have, I believe, I know Tierra Linda has a raffle and they'll have a silent auction at Centerpoint for their fundraiser. And then immediately after that, at 5 o'clock, starting the Hunt School Fall Carnival. And that's always a fun deal, has silent auction and fundraiser for them. Plus all the kids will be dressed up in Halloween costumes and what have you. Fun stuff, that's all.
All good.
I have
Okay.
one more thing I want to just to say for the record. Our animal control was characterized as being inhumane today. I take issue with that. I think they're doing a great job over there, and that was uncalled for. That's not the point of this. You know, sometimes you put a little too much sauce on it, and I think that was it, and I don't appreciate it.
Okay. Let's move on to start the consideration agenda. Item 1.1, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the 198th asset forfeiture budget. Our district attorney, Steve Harpo.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here if y'all have any questions.
How's your day going?
Very glad to be alive.
We're not going to ruin it, you know.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. We never spend that much, by the way. It's just, we just come up with it on the budget.
You want us to approve it?
If you would, please.
I make a motion that we approve the budget submitted for the asset forfeiture fund
As presented.
as presented.
Got a motion and a second to approve the forfeiture forfeiture budget. Any open discussions or comments? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Thanks, Steve.
Thank y'all very much. Have a great week.
1.2, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a proclamation regarding the District 2840 Rotary Conference. That was going to be Charlie McElvain, but I don't see him here.
He was going to work on a resolution, but I never received one, so.
Will you pass on this?
Yeah, it's passed.
So we'll pass on that. Hopefully we can get back to it. Item 1.3, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to rescind court order number 39164, leasing 2 Ford F-150 trucks, and approve leasing 2 Dodge Ram trucks from Enterprise Fleet Management. Reagan Givens.
Good morning. Once again, back to talk about some vehicles. As you are all aware, I'll just refresh memory, we had been approved for leasing of 2 Ford F-150s actually on last year's budget. They were ordered over a year ago, and they've never come in. Just recently, I found out that, well, that order was actually canceled, and then we got another one that was approved, signed by the judge back, I believe, in January of this year, and that order was canceled as well. The representative with Enterprise has found 2 Dodge pickups that I believe, as they call them, on the ground, which means they're built, they're out there somewhere. The price difference on those is a little bit different. We went from what was canceled, we went from one being $839, roughly $839 a month, to both of these units being $982 per month. And then the other canceled Ford was gonna be $788 a month. So, in speaking with Enterprise, basically, she kind of did some math on it for me. Basically, it's came out to roughly about $150 a month difference per truck. Which I have some other figures in there if y'all want them, but the bottom line is the two vehicles that I'm needing to replace, we've actually reached the point where I have to park them. One of them's got a hole in the rear differential. Don't know how that happened, but that's gonna be costly. The other vehicle, AC doesn't work, oil pumps going out, four-wheel drive doesn't work. You name it. It's need to do tires. We need to spend probably about $8,500 on these two vehicles to keep them on the road, which obviously we don't want to do at this point. So this is a little bit different price. Keep in mind also, we are selling, and I don't really know exactly how that process works, but we are going to be getting rid of some vehicles as well. So what we can get for those through the enterprise program will help to offset some of that cost, according to Kerr. So we don't have a lot of options out there.
So we just need to basically approve an additional about $150 a month per vehicle for the
Yes, sir.
lease.
Yeah,
And
around that.
do we have money somewhere, Ms. Auditor?
Somewhere.
We need to do it, obviously, and I know the sheriff's been helpful in giving you some, I hate to call them vehicles, but something.
Well, and part of this too is there's been a, vehicle costs are up 15%. Aftermarket costs are up 20 for anything that we need to get on the vehicles. Transport costs are up 30, so all these costs are just rising.
I make a motion that we authorize the change of contract, or contract with Enterprise to the two Dodge vehicles that would be about $150 a month more on lease.
Second.
Budget amendment to go along with it.
Do we need that?
Do we need to do it now if we don't know where it's coming from?
We can wait, we've got it in, our contingency fund.
I have a suggestion where to get some of it. There's something that we are, a while back, we had the citizen emergency thing in the budget. I did some calling around and found out that there's not very many people engaged in it or participating. And we have money in that budget that's not being used. So that would be one place we could find this small amount of money. I did a little poll that came up in court. We have an emergency group that's citizens, and they get called out. Everybody I called said no, and some of them didn't call back. They've moved or something. That's what we have on file with HR. So unless there's another list out there someplace, we got money in that budget that doesn't need to be there.
You talking about the first
citizens-
responder?
Yeah, the first responder. CERT? No. What we pay for, not through CERT, but it's in cooperation with the City of Kerrville Fire Department. And I asked Eric Maloney, who's the chief, to let me know how many participants. He never responded. So I tracked them down, talked to them. Ain't nobody doing it. Unless there's another list someplace, that money's just sitting there. Now, we pay for the oxygen tanks. I signed the forms, and that money, that's used. But these other ones, we either need to revamp that program, update it, or something, because there's just money sitting there, not being used. And I think it's a good program. I'm not against the program. But there's not anybody participating, and I called them all personally.
Rather than make a snap decision right here on it, I want to look into it a little bit myself. But
It's not on the agenda, so we can't.
I understand it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to alert everybody while I had the opportunity. There's money available. We may have other stuff sitting around in a cookie jar.
You second it? Did you second
This motion? Yes, I'll second it.
it? Can you read?
I'd rather have a budget, I'd just rather have the budget amendment come back after the fact, we know
Yeah.
exactly what it's gonna be. But my motion was to
Approve
approve the revised contract with Enterprise to purchase 2 new Dodge trucks.
Well, I think the order needs to rescind the existing
Rescind.
order
Right.
on the 4 trucks
Right.
and enter an order approving the contract lease agreement on the Dodge trucks.
And authorize county judge to sign the contract.
Okay, so that's the motion and the second.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Yes. Reagan, when could we actually touch these things?
She told me that we could have these, they're shipping them in from, I believe, Missouri. And she talked about the first week of November, very quickly,
Good.
Okay,
which would be really good.
good deal. I went and visited Reagan last week. I hadn't seen the new facilities out there. And we got talking about trucks, and he's pointing them out, and just walking past them, looking at the tires, they wouldn't even pass inspection now. I mean, that's where we're at with them. What he's got. in his-
We're basically trying to hang on as long as we could,
I
not
know,
spend money on
without a
that.
doubt.
The vehicles just never came.
We don't want to put any more money into it.
Okay. Chair?
I'd just like to share with the court, Don, you mentioned about 1 to 10. We do have a meeting, Judge, today at 4 o'clock, just refresh your memory, with Enterprise. Don, you mentioned you might want to attend it, just kind of get an update where they're at, what their future looks like. I know there's been a lot of issues with that, but some of the higher up supervisors will be here to answer any questions. I believe will be with you, Judge. Don, if you want to.
Good, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. 1.4, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to surplus items for IT. Ms. Shelton.
Yes, you have before you a list of IT items. They were asking that these items be surplused.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and second to approve surplusing the items as presented. Any discussion?
Yes, if it's more than 30 days old, it's already obsolete, so it would seem anyway.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. 1.5, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to reappoint William Aycock to the Emergency Services District Number 1 Board. When that term would expire October 26. His term is expiring on October 26. He's
Yeah.
being reappointed.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Move for approval.
Second.
Well, I was jotting down some stuff. Let's pass on this.
Does he, does he not want to do it?
No, we did it last meeting. We approved him last meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, Bill.
So you've withdrawn that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
we
I
did.
did
I
him
do.
and Chris Hughes at the
I
same
didn't
time.
remember the name, but yes.
Yeah, I was thinking he was on the board.
He
so
is, and he's
it
doing
was
a great job.
renewal.
He's the treasurer there, and I mentioned that, and Chris is the president, but we did him last meeting, I believe.
So did you
I'm
submit
sorry, I
this,
was
you
jumping.
submitted this twice, or?
Yeah, I just want to double check.
I know Jody didn't miss it, so you gotta keep, make sure we stay in line, Jody, if you submit the same thing twice.
Motion withdrawn?
Yeah, he'll withdraw his motion.
Okay.
Yes.
I still like Bill, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
I'm glad he's
without a
there.
doubt,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Next item on the agenda is 1.6, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on Court Order 39582 from September 26, 2022, Commissioners Court meeting regarding the Safety Committee. Ms. Dowdy.
I'm going to pass to Commissioner Letson if he has more information.
When I made the motion on that, I misspoke. And we put the wrong people on the committee. So, it's some of it is required. And, I gotta remember. Jackie, help me on who needs to be on the committee.
Not the treasurer, it should be HR.
HR should be on the committee. So on the original court order, it said it should be county judge or designee, treasurer or designee, chief deputy treasurer designee. Those two should come off, and it should be HR or designee. And then maintenance supervisor or designee, county sheriff or designee, and road bridge administrator or designee. So with that is a new motion, who should be on the safety committee.
So should we rescind it or just modify the court order?
I think we should just modify it.
Modify.
So we need to have a motion and second to approve the modification.
Right, I made the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous? The next item on the agenda is item 1.7. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to make proposed changes to the fee schedule for the county clerk's office. Ms. Dowdy.
So in the attachment of the backup, you should see the fee schedule. Okay. This is one of those things that I've found recently. It's always been done that way, one of those kinds of things. So as far as tax certificates go, the tax certificates on a plat are supposed to be attached to the plat when they're filed for recording with the county clerk. And it is also in our proposed subdivision rules under, I don't know what section, it's in chapter 6 of the proposed subdivision rules. But in the property code, chapter 12, section E, there's that statutory requirement that the tax certificates be attached to the plat. So over the years, what's happened is the plat comes to me, and then my staff has to call the developers and track down the tax certificates. And so the plats, so my staff is doing extra work outside of the scope of what the statute reads. So really, before they come to me, typically on the day of court, they need to have the tax certificates attached. So what happens is if they're attached, that reduces the recording fees. So I need to scratch that recording fee and charge $4 for the attachment of the tax certificate instead of the $26, just to be consistent with statutory requirements. So that's my recommended, requested motion.
So if it comes to you correctly
Yes.
with the attachment, it's
Yes.
$4. If you have to do something else, it's 26. If you have to track it down.
I think that's the reason why my predecessors charged 26, is because this statute has been there for I don't know how long, probably since before they were in office. And so I think I don't know why it is this way, but that was my thought, was that they were coming in after the fact, so it was treated as a separate document instead of as an attachment. So
Can't you just say we can't file this without it being complete?
well, that's what we've been doing.
Okay.
They
And then
said-
it's $4 when they come back with the
No,
property.
well, it should be, but per our subdivision rules and per statute, I'm not even supposed to take the plat unless those tax certificates are attached.
That's what I'm saying. You reject it and you say come back later.
Well, then I'd have to reject it from the county engineer, but it's set on the, and he'd have to hold it in his office until he gets the plat certificate, or tax certificate. Does that make any sense?
I'm confused.
Yeah, it doesn't to
I
me.
think I understand it is that the tax certificates under the property code need to be submitted with the plat. It's really not a subdivision administrator thing, it's but it needs to be added to the checklist for the final plat, and if it's not there, it's rejected because of that.
That would clean it up.
Is your suggestion in this schedule?
My suggestion, well,
Or your recommendation, is it in the schedule?
of the subdivision rules?
No, I'm talking about of
schedule, fee schedule?
The plat?
My
fees.
my personal fee schedule, yes, my suggestion is here to scratch that, and it would be $4 instead of 26.
And I think it's an interesting question to me is that, the platting is mostly under 232, section 232 of the local government code. And then typical for the legislature, they put another requirement under here's under the property code. So I'm not sure how the two interact, but it seems to me that they don't have a final plat application is not complete until the tax certificates are attached, but I would defer to our outside counsel on how we handle it, really, Mr. Kimbrough.
Well, can you process it without that? it can't be
No.
completed anyway, so
So,
just
again,
put it on
it's-
hold until they come in with everything.
But that's added duties on my office that we should not even be doing. That is on the developer to get the tax certificates, or the
Right.
surveyor, or whoever it is that's been doing that.
But that changes in our new
And that
ordinance.
change is, yeah, in the proposed, that I can't accept that the tax certificates must be attached to, does anybody have that copy on them?
So
It's chapter six
we can
somewhere.
approve a plat, but it can't be recorded.
So,
I can't take it out of Charlie's hands. Y'all can definitely approve it. At least that's the way I understand it, but when Charlie brings it to me,
You can't record it
I can't, I
until
don't
the
even
tax
want to take
certificates are
it.
there.
but this will, in the
It's
new
not a
rules,
major
people will be
tax,
aware
it's
of this.
I'm sorry?
In the new rules, people will be aware of this. You're just talking about a change of payment.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
To accurately reflect the correct fees,
Now,
there's a reduction in cost.
Do I understand correctly, the fees are collected once there is final plat approval? Is that right? Is that what we're saying?
The fees are collected when, after you sign it, and then after I sign it, then.
So the court goes through the final approval process, plat approval process. But they can't record it unless they have their tax certificates with it. Is that correct?
Correct,
And that, you just want to enforce that?
yes.
So that kind of
Sounds
takes
good to
care of
me.
itself.
Yeah.
But you do need us to accept this plat, this schedule,
Yes.
Yeah.
this fee schedule.
Yeah.
I move for approval of this.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the new county clerk's fee schedule as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous.
I think it's an interesting question, Judge, on that is it approved, can they move forward before it's recorded? And I just,
I don't think so. I would assume not, but
I don't
yeah,
think so.
that'd be a good question to ask Chuck in one of our future meetings, so.
I think the question is, do they have to have a duly recorded, filed and recorded plat in order to be able to do the things they want to do to their subdivision?
Right, yeah.
And I think it is.
So, but they could, like, say, for example, they come back the next day with it, and it's just sitting on your desk, basically, and then you put the complete report together and they move forward.
Right.
That's really what we're talking about, right?
That's the unfortunate sequence of
Yeah.
events, yes. That my staff has to call sometimes weeks. And so that plat sits in, in my office or in the back. And it's just unfortunate that we're the ones having to do that work.
well, then-
When in
that'll
reality, the
change.
statute says the plat cannot come to us unless the tax certificates are attached to the plat.
Well, you give a notice that you're going to enforce the law as it's written.
Yes,
And that means that if they don't bring their tax certificates, you don't accept their plat.
yes.
And
But
you don't need,
don't take possession of it. Send it home with them.
Right.
Let them come back when they have the
That's right.
certificates. It's strict enforcement of the law.
and you don't need to talk to them, or remind them and call them back. I mean, if they don't do it, they don't do it.
Right.
Your staff doesn't have to do anything. You wait for the certificates.
Thank you. Believe me, my staff, if they're listening right now, they're just probably just rejoicing right now.
Well,
To hear y'all support them and that, because it's been an issue
Well,
for many
good.
years. And I thank y'all for addressing it.
Okay.
very well. Then now we go to the timed items. 1.8, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a resolution for Deeder Center to apply for a Texas Department of Agriculture grant for Meals on Wheels services in Kerr County. And Texas Department of Agriculture is now using the 2020 census information, so the match increased from 500 to 4,624.50. And Brenda can't be here today, but Paige?
Yes, I
This
did
page-
get an update that they didn't, anytime Texan comes in and says, we didn't have to do as much as we thought, great, he's already in recovery, so yes, that's why Brenda can't be here. My name is Paige Sumner, and I appreciate y'all's kind words about my dad. We moved back a couple years ago to be closer to family, and I can't count the number of times a week I say, that's why we're here, that's why we're here. So, honoring volunteers like that is important and inspiring others. And segue appropriate. Of course, Deeder Center depends on volunteers like that every day to do what we do. And so we are coming to ask for your support. Y'all have done this. All of you have done this more times than I have. So, and then Judge Kelly just read some of what we're doing. We've come to request the court approve the required resolution for the grant funds for the contract for 23-24. We'll then be able to apply for the TDA grant, Texas Feeding Texans, for that contract period, and the grant application is due November 1st. Last fiscal year, we received $11,724 from TDA to help provide homebound meals for Kerr County seniors, homebound seniors age 60 and over. This TDA grant, your county match was $4,500. And then community support obviously provides for the rest of what we do, 65,000 meals approximately a year, and the expense of over $250,000. So the funds from the county required by TDA is based upon an amount equal to 25 cents per Kerr County senior reported in the 2020 census and qualifies meal providers for funds under this program. The number of seniors has increased to 18,498, and therefore, that's what my notes say, but therefore the match required is increased to $4,624.50 for this contract. Last year was $4,500 based on the 2010 census. So the difference is $124.50 for this contract period, and I think y'all have that breakdown on your paperwork. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go. This grant program is designed to create partnership between the states, counties, local meal providers, and Diedert Center, and we request your approval.
I'm going to motion we approve the resolution and the funding increase of $124 and the additional funds to come from contingency.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the Meals on Wheels, Meals on Wheels with the Diedert Center, and to include
An additional $124.50 over the budgeted amount, and that extra $124.50 to come from contingency.
yes, and that's because we have a formula with Diedert that we provide what, 25%?
25 cents per senior in Kerr County. 25%, I'm not gonna argue if you.
What's your?
25 cents.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
Well, so Paige will know, a couple of budget seasons back, we started looking through things in the county where the county was making contributions to nonprofit organizations, some of which were questionable and some that were taken away. And this one remained because of the grant matching and also because it's a good program, but this was I think it was the last one we looked at during that whole process.
Right.
And
We kept it.
we kept it
Hands off this one.
because you guys, you need that participation, but also because it's,
Well,
everybody knows it's a
we
good
appreciate it, and TDA does audit us, as does ACOG and all the gang. So they hold us to a transparent standard on accounting for all of it. So yeah, we definitely appreciate y'all's continued support.
thing.
Judge, after looking at the agenda items,
Yeah.
this motion is only to amend it to only approve the resolution.
Well, I will.
We've got a second motion after this. Don't get nervous.
I'm not, okay, I'm good.
So we have a motion to approve the resolution supporting Meals on Wheels.
A second.
Got a second? All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Let's move on to item 1.9, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a contract with the Diedert Center and allow the county judge to sign same approving contract at $4,624.50.
I'll make a
That will
motion.
require a budget amendment.
Now, approve that contract with the additional $124.50 to come from contingency.
A second.
So we've got a motion to approve the contract and amend the budget. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Moving on to item 1.10.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paige. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to accept a request for proposal, or request for proposals for a new countywide communication system for Kerr County Sheriff's Office and volunteer fire departments. Ms. Putnam.
Okay, well, we have reached that time where the deadline for the solicitations was on Friday, and they were to be received to the county clerk's office by 2 o'clock last Friday. So this is to just take any necessary action if needed in order to accept those proposals from the county clerk to go to us, to go to the next step in the review.
We have a proposal from LCRA. I'm not sure exactly what all is in that proposal, Judge. And we have a proposal from Motorola.
Commissioner, they're labeled box 104, 204,
Right.
304.
This is box 104, which is where it says the original list. I don't know if there's something else in there.
These are all the same letter.
I can't remember exactly how many we asked for, but I think it was an original and 8 copies.
Yeah, I think that's what these are from LCRA.
And here's the proposal from Motorola. I think it's gonna be too complicated, probably just to try to go into the details at this point, but I think I'll make a motion that we accept the 2 proposals, one from LCRA and one from Motorola at this time, and refer it to a committee for review and evaluation.
We have that coming up here next.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a second. So we've got a motion and a second to accept the proposals that were submitted by the LCRA and by Motorola for the communication system. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Move on to item 1.11. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to appoint a selection review committee to score the request for proposals for the new countywide communication system for the Kerr County Sheriff's Office and volunteer fire departments. Ms. Putnam.
Okay, so in our discussions, we had decided that we wanted to have about seven members on this review committee. By law, we are required to have 1 elected official. Typically, it's a commissioner. And in getting together and meeting, we did come up with a few names that I do recommend for you to review to see if you would like those on the selection committee, the selection review committee, primarily comprising of community members, except for the required by law. And you should have a list there.
I guess my question would be, looking at the names, and I know everyone on there, but are they all, what's the right word?
Knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable, thank you, knowledgeable to review and give a recommendation on a proposal of this type and this complexity?
Because this is such an intense and detailed RPF, I'm not certain how many people actually would have this much knowledge an all-around singular person. But with this group of people, it does somehow go within their purview of knowledge and understanding, or affecting their departments of what they do here in the county. So it's a well-rounded committee of people that can each bring knowledge in their own ways and assist each other in answering questions that are not understood. And then the proposal is so specific as well that it would be very difficult to veer off of what it is asking for.
Well, I think the public needs to, they haven't heard who have been suggested here. The elected official that's been being suggested is Commissioner Ballou because of his experience and background. And then we have Mark Del Toro from 911. Never pronounce it 911. It's 911. I learned. Greg Harmon, Hunt ISD technology guy. Jeff Harris, South Star Bank. Chris Lalonde for the Sheriff's Office. Mark Mosier for the Airport Board. And Kerry Potter from Hill Country Telephone Co-op.
You know, I might argue that maybe we ought to have somebody from the VFDs, because they've been in on most all the talks leading up to where we're at now.
Are we limited to 7?
No, there is nothing
Okay.
in the RPF that says,
We want an
any
odd
number, so you can
It's a
have more
tiebreaker.
or less, whatever you choose.
I mean, I tend to agree that, I mean, I think the VFDs, you know, certainly have a stake here. You wouldn't know who from the VFDs necessarily, but
Well, if we add one,
Well-
we need to add 2 to keep it odd,
Well-
odd number.
Brian said.
Brian is
Brian
the head of
Alexander
CARPA,
said-
so-
Head of CARPA, and he
Yeah.
sat in on majority of the meetings. Do you agree, Sheriff?
I think you're gonna get some pushback from one of the bidders on that.
Well,
So let me ask this, Don, why where you have law enforcement with the same needs, why, you just want to answer their questions if they have anything that goes beyond
it
that?
would
or
help, I think,
Make them feel comfortable with
place
it?
at the table.
There's not going to be any need they have that the sheriff's department doesn't have, I wouldn't think. I don't disagree with you that, you know, it's
Yeah.
good
Sheriff,
community
you have any
relations.
thoughts one way or the other?
It's a different
Yeah, I mean,
activity.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, Judge. I would probably, if you did, I'd recommend Charlie Holt, Charles Holt, you know.
Yeah.
And not probably Brian. But then if you're gonna have to another one, well, we'd have to see about
What
that.
about emergency coordinator, Doug?
Dub?
Yeah.
If Dub's
Add
there,
those
the
two.
sheriff's department and the
Yeah.
VFDs, that's a
Yes.
good,
I think so.
yeah.
Yes.
That fix it.
Chief Holt.
So we wanna add Chief Holt from Center Park Volunteer Fire Department and Dub Thomas, our emergency service.
Provided they'll do it.
Good,
Good suggestion, Jackie.
yeah.
So that'll take us up to 9.
Would you like to make it so that, because we do not have a confirmation from everybody here to say that we are recommending 9 but need at least 7 in attendance for the review in case someone cannot make it or there's an emergency? So it's either 9 or 2 alternates? Just a suggestion.
Well,
In other words, we could have it, let's look at our options. You're saying we could have the committee of 7 with 2 alternates that attend and participate, right? And you're going to make a requirement that we have to have at least 7 people present?
Just whatever you think is fair, because you do want to keep it to, I don't even think you have to keep it to an odd number if you don't want to.
Well, that's an old lawyer rule.
yeah,
You got to be able to break that
That would be an
tie.
attorney question.
it's a good idea.
So why don't we go ahead, I think it's better just to go ahead and have a full 9-member committee, and everybody has the same impact.
right.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the selection review committee to be Harley Ballou, Mark Del Toro, Greg Harmon, Jeff Harris, Chris Lalonde, Mark Mosier, Kerry Potter, Dub Thomas, and Charles Holt.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
What's the timing? When did they,
It's pretty quick.
Yeah,
We
November,
we will give them some time to have possession of the RPFs to review them on their own so that they can formulate their own opinions, and then when they meet, they can have any questions and discussion with their opinions at their committee meeting to do the scoring.
but I guess, I mean, we should give them a deadline as to when they need to have a response to us, it seems.
The
Supposed to be
next
in-
court date, what is our next court date, Jody? November 14th. I believe I have it on November 14th, I think, to bring forth to the court.
I think the RFP had us awarding it and starting negotiations on November 14th. So that's why, and I guess part of that motion too, if any of these people are not available to review it in that time frame, are you okay with, again, I think that's what she's getting at. If we can't get all 9 of them on board, are you okay with 7?
Sure.
Because we don't know for sure that.
And basically what we're doing is making a threshold. We have to have at least 7 for a quorum.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to include that. Is that okay?
And the reply is due by
14th?
the 11th.
11th? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to be really busy.
Well, yeah, because they'll need time to review it and then get together and talk about it, score it,
Yeah.
et cetera, with hopefully a recommendation to the court on November 14th. That's our hoping plan.
Okay.
And I would also like to put out a reminder that these review committee members, there is no discussion with them from the public or anybody else or any other entity. If there is any discussion or questions or any concerns from anyone, then it needs to go to the point of contact at this point, which is me, and they can email me at grantadministrator@co.tx.us, because to keep this as a fair and equitable bid process, we cannot have any communications with these review committee members.
Okay.
Okay.
I had a motion, did I get a second?
Back.
Back.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Putnam.
Did we pass it?
Oh,
Got a vote.
okay. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Yeah.
5-0. Good. Let's quickly do item 1.13. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve contracts with the Turtle Creek Volunteer Fire Department and CASA to allow me to sign same. These are just recurring things that we do every year.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the contracts as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Let's take a 5-minute break. Criteria to be used by the Selection Review Committee when reviewing requests for proposals for a new countywide communication system.
This is just really quick. This is in the RPF. It is the verification of selection criteria. It goes over the scoring that the review committee will be using. So at this point in time, if you approve of the way it stands, then we don't need to do anything, and we'll just go forward with this, but this is required for you to review.
I move we approve the criteria as submitted.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. All 5. 5-0. Now we take the 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Back to order. We'll move on to the 10 o'clock docket. And you'll look down there. There are 17 items for 10 o'clock. Man.
It's the Charlie Hastings.
And 6 of
And they all got my name on it.
and 6 of them are public hearings.
Okay.
So I'm going to call the first public hearing is 1.14. I'm convening a public hearing for the proposed cancellation of Privilege Creek Ranches lots 1A through 11A, 12 through 17, 32, and 34 through 40. Mr. Hastings, this is a public meeting. Anybody here want to talk about Privilege Creek Ranches? There not being anyone, the meeting is adjourned. Move on to item 1.15, public hearing for a revision of plat for Hill Country Estates Section 2, Tract 6. Is there anyone who would like to address the court with regard to Hill Country Estates Section 2, Tract 6? There being none, I'll adjourn that meeting. We'll move on to the next public meeting, which is item 1.16, which is a public hearing for revision of plat for Ingram Hill Subdivision, Tract 59. Anyone here on that matter? There being no one, I will adjourn that meeting and we'll move on to the next item, which is 1.17, a public hearing for revision of plat for Scenic Valley Springs Phase 2, Lot 2. Anyone here for that? There being no one, I'll adjourn that meeting. We'll move on to the next public meeting, which is item 1.18, which is a public hearing for a revision of plat for Mystic Ridge Estates, lots 5 and 19. No one here for that? Then I will adjourn that public meeting. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is item 1.19, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a revision of plat for Mystic Ridge Estates, lots 5 and 19. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you. This proposal revises 2 lots and the right-of-way between them. Lot 5 is 20.01 acres, will be revised to Lot 5R at 20.45 acres, and Lot 19, 28.76 acres, will be revised to Lot 19R at 28.33 acres. Both lots will be accessed from Countless Views Drive. Countless Views Drive is currently under construction. These lots are located in Kerrville's ETJ, and since both lots are over 5 acres, this proposal is exempted from platting through the city of Kerrville, so it's only being platted through Kerr County. And again, this is simply because they needed to realign the road because there was a big tower, big electrical tower that it just didn't work out once they got out there and started laying it out. It's a simple revision. It adjusts the road, which affects those 2 lots.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the revision of plat of Mystic Ridge Estates, lots 5 and 19. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.20. This is a public hearing. I'm convening a public hearing for a revision of plat for Kerrville Country Estates, Section 2, Lot 35. Anyone here on that matter? There being no one, I'll adjourn that meeting and move on to item 1.21, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a revision of plat for Kerrville Country Estates, Section 2, Lot 35. Mr. Hastings.
This proposal divides Lot 35, currently 10.004 acres, into 2 lots. Each lot will be 5.002 acres, fronting on Kerrville Country Drive. These lots are located in Kerrville's ETJ. Since both lots are over 5 acres, this proposal will be exempted from platting through the city of Kerrville. The county engineer requests the court approve a revision of plat for Kerrville Country Estates, Section 2, Lot 35, Volume 4, page 131, Precinct 1.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Next item is item 1.22. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on November 28, 2020 for a revision of plat for Hill Country Estates, Section 2, Tract 6. Mr. Hastings.
This proposal revises the west part of Tract 6. It's 25.31 acres as platted. Tract 6 was previously divided into separate tracts without revising the plat. This plat revision will correct matters for this part of Tract 6. It will be 8.24 acres with frontage on Green Oak Drive. The remaining part of Tract 6 is currently in the process of being platted. County engineer requests the court set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on November 28, 2022 for revision of plat for Hill Country Estates, Section 2, Tract 6, Volume 3, page 30, Precinct 3.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve setting a public hearing for November 28 at 10 o'clock in the morning. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Move on to item 1.23. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on November 28, 2020, for a revision of plat for Creekside at Camp Verde, Phase 2. Mr. Hastings. Oh, this is, yeah.
Yeah. Making sure I've got correct notes here. On August 22nd, 2022, the court approved a final plat for Creekside at Camp Verde Phase 2 and accepted bond number 0814615 in the amount of $1,271,784 for associated construction improvements, and that's court order number 39482. This proposed revision increases the minimum lot size from 5.01 acres to 7.01 acres and reduces the total number of lots. It also eliminates approximately 400 feet of Palisades Drive, a proposed road. Proposed improvements that are within the floodplain must meet floodplain regulations. Minimum lot size is based on Headwater Groundwater Conservation District's East Kerr Management Zone. So they've brought this back into compliance. The county engineer requests the court set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on November 28, 2022 for a revision of plat for Creekside at Camp Verde Phase 2, Precinct 2, and I'll add that they've also already submitted revised construction plans, and I've already approved those for the reducing the length of that road because these lots all had to get bigger.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve setting a public hearing for 10 a.m. on November 28 for Creekside at Camp Verde Phase 2. Any discussion?
We appreciate your work on this.
Okay, and all those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.24. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a proposed cancellation of Privilege Creek Ranches lots 1A through 11A, 12 through 17, 32, and 34 through 40. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you. We presented this earlier this year, and what they'd like to do is exactly what you read. We'd like to, a cancellation of Privilege Creek Ranches, lots 1A through 11A, 12 through 17, 32, and 34 through 40, as it is recorded right now in volumes 8, page 21 through 26, volume 8, pages 61 through 65, and volume 8, pages 87 through 91. It's in precinct 3. This thing has been revised a number of times, as you can tell from all those 3 different locations that it's platted, and they finally said, you know what, we just kind of like to scrap all of that and cancel all of that, but it's a partial cancellation. So what we thought would be the best way to handle this would be what looks like a plat, and Jackie has it, and it should be in your packet to make it very clear this is what is being canceled, but this is what's to remain. And we asked that the court would approve it as presented.
I'll move for approval. It's a little bit odd, but under the circumstances for this one, it makes sense.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve the cancellation of Privilege Creek Ranches, lots 1A through 11A, 12 through 17, 32, and then 34 through 40. Any discussion?
I have a question. I'm just out of the loop. I'm sorry, Charlie. How come, was there a public hearing on the cancellation? Does it need one?
Doesn't require one.
Okay, it's just maybe we've done some on other ones.
Correct.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Okay, any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Move on to item 1.25. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to offer road and bridge equipment as a trade-in for new equipment of the same general type per the local government code. Ms. Shelton.
Yes, local government code 263.152 allows Commissioners Court to say certain items are available for trade-in, and we're asking that these 13 items be approved.
Move for approval.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve these 13 items, road and bridge equipment, for trade-in. Any discussion?
What's the Sourcewell contract discount? What is that? What's that about?
It's a government purchasing contract. They have HTAC buy board. The state has some purchasing, so that's what it is. And what they do is they do a contract with the purchasing agent company, and they give a discount for government. So Sourcewell on a maintainer for Holt Caterpillars, a 34% discount. That's not all the way through on all cat equipment. Your dozers might be, 10%, but the motor graders in this current contract have a discount of 34%. But it's only for government. The private individual could not do it.
It's significant.
Yeah, it is.
And so that the public understands what we're doing, we're going to trade in some of our old equipment on new equipment. And we're approving that process right here.
It's about $50,000 worth.
On that one, but on the four that I'm going to bring to you, the total on trade-in is $222,850 for those 13 pieces of equipment. It's almost $250,000 we're putting towards the purchase.
And the public can't hear that because you're not at the podium. But these trade-ins are going to amount to almost $250,000 value that will be credited against the purchase of the new equipment that we desperately need to buy. Okay, any discussions? Questions? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 1.26, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the Commissioners Court approval regarding the Holt Cat Sales Agreement number 307865. Ms. Hoffman.
All right, before you is the Holt Cat sales agreement. It is to purchase a 2022 140 GC motor grader. We're trading in a 2001 Cat 12H motor grader. They're giving us $75,000 for the trade on that. We also are going to purchase an extended warranty. It's their premier warranty, 84-month. Covers pretty much from front to back on it. And by the time that goes out, we'll probably be ready to be trading in again. So if you look at that agreement from Holt, this motor grader for a private citizen or a contractor, private contractor, lists for $424,905. That Sourcewell contract number, 34%, knocks $157,641 off of it. Then they've got their subtotal. You've got your delivery and warranty in there. The trade is $75,000 off. So it brings a piece of equipment that normally sells for $424,905 down to $202,658. So that's a pretty huge savings.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Holt Cat Sales Agreement as presented. Any discussion?
Note, the salesperson is Ken Powell. I think he's been with Holt in this area longer than I've been a commissioner.
Okay.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. I said, Ken is, and he treats us well.
Yes.
Well, has for many years.
And this is all budgeted stuff, so
Yes.
people understand that.
What was his name again?
Ken Powell.
Ken Powell? Remember that. We want that kind of relationship with Enterprise. Okay. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 1.27.
Judge, I apologize. Can we go back to item 124? Jackie Dowdy asked a question and I didn't answer it correctly. I'd like to correct my answer.
Okay, we'll go back to item 1.24, which is about the cancellation of Privilege Creek Ranch's lots.
Yes, Jackie asked if we needed to have a public hearing for it, and we had one moments ago. It was item 114. So yes, we needed to have a public hearing for that, and yes, we had one. There was a big gap because we lumped all the public hearings together. So we had one today.
Yeah.
For it. And I apologize for
We had
fumbling on that question.
6 public hearings today.
And I actually have more on that particular item.
Better stay up there, Charlie.
Is there another question about it?
Well, I noticed that the court order, maybe this isn't the right time, but the court order that approved the proposed cancellation, the court order just, it reads it as a revision of plat. And it got published as a revision of plat. So where does that leave us? Is it published? I mean, I'd have to ask the county attorney's office.
If you look at item 1.14 on today's agenda, it's a timed item at 10 o'clock. It's the first one. A public hearing for a proposed cancellation of Privilege Creek Ranches, and that names various lots. So it doesn't say revision plat.
But what got published was that it was a revision of plat instead of a cancellation.
Well, we've had the public meeting already, and then we went ahead and approved it, so I think we'll have another order come out of this meeting.
Thank you, Judge.
So, let's get Ms. Hoffer back up at the stand. This is your day.
It's my day.
1.27, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the Commissioners' Court approval regarding the Nueces Power and Equipment Purchase Contract for 2022 Ham HP-180-10 pneumatic roller. Ms. Hoffer.
Okay, so this one, you can see the list price on it is $139,728. And then if you look kind of mid over on the left, it has all the different things that Tanya surplused. FiberMax roller, Cat CB 614 double drum vibratory roller, a Cat 420 backhoe, a Cat 930 wheel loader, and a Cat PS 150C pneumatic roller. The totals on all of those, if you look, the trade-in value for that is $40,050. And so if you go through and you keep working it down, we end up getting that piece of equipment for $103,507.07. So it's a pretty good deal right now. They're giving a lot on trade-in on equipment. The vendors are. I think it's more advantageous for us to trade it in than to try to sell on gov deals. I think that maintainer in the previous one, we would probably get about $25,000, $30,000 on gov deals if we put it up for auction. That $75,000. We paid $153,000 for that maintainer, and yeah. So, anyways, this one also is through a purchasing contract. I can't remember which contract they're under, but it's got a sales code of 597-19, and so this also is under a government purchasing. So, pretty good deal on that. It also has an extended premier warranty. This one is for 48 months or 4,000 hours, whichever comes first. I can guarantee you the 48 months will come before the 4,000 hours will for us. So.
For approval. Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. To approve the Nueces Power and Equipment Purchase Contract for the new pneumatic roller. Any discussions? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 1.28, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the Commissioners' Court approval regarding the RDO Equipment Company purchase order number 1594871. Ms. Hoffer.
This is for a wheel loader. The list price is $287,662. This is under also a Sourcewell contract 032119 JDC. It's a 40% discount under that. So the discount is $115,064.80. You've got your freight, delivery in and out, the prep. We did go for an extended warranty on this one. This one is 84 months or 4,000 hours. That's $7,432.12. We've got our trade-in, a John Deere 310 backhoe, a Cat 924G wheel loader, and a John Deere 670B motor grader. So the total trade-in on those three pieces is $57,400. So when you go through and you do all the discounts, it brings it down to $133,939.32.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the Nueces Power and Equipment Company contract? No,
No.
it's the RDO Equipment
Yes.
Company purchase. I was getting ahead of myself. This is the RDO Equipment Company purchase. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Don't go away. Item 1.29. Consider, discuss, take appropriate action for Commissioners Court approval regarding the Nueces Power and Equipment purchase contract for 2020 Ham H10I Cab 84 smooth drum roll. Ms. Hoffer.
Yes, the list price on this Ham smooth drum roller is $143,092. We got the optional extended premier warranty, 48 months, 4,000 hours, that's at $4,200. You go over to the left, you'll see all of our trade-in that Tanya had surplused, 2 Cat 420 backhoes, and 2 Cat 910 wheel loaders. Total trade-in value of those 4 pieces of equipment is $50,400. So it takes that smooth drum roller down to $97,047.71.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the Nueces Power and Equipment purchase contract of the smooth drum roller. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Kelly, where does that leave us now? How many things did we
Well,
had, what, 13 items?
yeah, we got rid of 13 items, and we're getting 4 new items.
And that, and the things that we're getting rid of were things that were old?
Yes.
Very old.
Yes, some of them, that 930 Cat wheel loader is a 1984.
So this is a major step in being able to get your equipment up to speed.
And I think what it will do is, and for us to trade them in when the values still are high on them, it keeps from us getting into major repairs. It's nothing on a piece of heavy equipment to have a repair of $7,000. That actually can be a cheap repair. So you really start spending the money on them the longer you keep them. And the thing is, with a lot of the new equipment, they've gone to so much electronics in them that those boards, you're out there where it's dusty, stuff gets in there, and after time, you start having problems with them. And if you have to start trying to track down an electronic issue, it can be very costly trying to track it down. And there's really, they've all gone to it, all of the electronic stuff with the boards. So the longer you keep it, the more money you're going to end up spending on it. The old equipment, the real old stuff didn't have that. But then after 20 years old, it's hard to find parts for them. So,
But all told, you went shopping, and you got good discounts,
yes,
and you got good trade-in values,
yep,
and you have new equipment.
yep. And we still have money left in our capital, so,
Well done.
yep.
And the other good thing is, and I want to mention, is that you purchased the extended warranties on
Yeah.
all these. Because of that electronic equipment,
Yes.
there are malfunctions on those, and the cost is huge. to get
That's
We've
all-
got to
not-
learn
it's
the
not an
hard
option
way
anymore.
on that.
Yeah.
We've learned the hard way, so this go around, we were like, let's get their premier warranties
Yeah.
that will cover it. I think it's money well spent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you increase your DEF budget?
What's that?
Did you increase your DEF budget? All this new equipment
Yeah, no
requires DEF, is put in addition to the diesel.
We buy it by the drum, so, thank you.
Okay, next item is 1.30. Consider, discuss, take appropriate action to approve UBO rental contract, non-appropriation addendum, and maintenance supply for equipment. And have the county judge sign. It's Ms. Bland's.
I'm going to handle it for her.
Okay.
She's in jury selection this morning.
Okay.
This is for a new contract for a UBO copier. It is, the rate went down $55 a month, so it's $660 less than was budgeted. I move that we approve the new rental agreement and addendum and authorize county judge to sign same.
Did you say it was gonna be less?
Yes.
$660 for a year, for the year, less.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the UBO rental contract non-appropriation addendum and maintenance supply contract. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Okay, let's go to our approval agenda. Budget amendments,
There are not any.
that's 2.1. 2.2, pay bills.
Yes, invoices for today's consideration amount to $1,822,987.70.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the paying the bills as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. 2.3, late bills.
Yes. Late bills for today's consideration, $72,937.64.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the late bills, pay the late bills as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Any auditor reports?
Yes, we are asking that you accept 5 internal audit reports. There's 3 for the sheriff's office, 1 for the tax office, and 1 for HR.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the auditor reports, all 5 auditor reports as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Next is 2.5, monthly reports.
Yes, for September 2022, County Treasurer Tracy Saldown, District Clerk Dawn Lance, Animal Control Services Director Reagan Gibbons. I move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Are you guys just busy or what?
He's shuffling paper, I don't know what. We've got a motion and a second to approve the monthly reports as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. 2.6, court orders.
We have the court orders from our October 10th meeting. October 18th in here also?
It should be, yes. I have it here if you'd like it.
Okay. Anyway, Commissioner Harris and I both looked at these because I was absent part of that meeting. And I think they're all right. There was one correction that was made to Court Order 39608. The vote was 5-0, and it should have been 4-0. Should have been 4-0.
Correct.
We played WWJD, but it was what would Jonathan do? We tried to figure it out that way.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
But other than that, Court Orders 39594 through 39611 of our October 11th meeting are in order with that one correction.
And she's corrected it already.
Okay.
Which one? Oh, the 18th?
So we've
Well, I
got
wasn't here on the 18th. So you want to do that one?
I haven't looked at them.
There's only 2. It was the subdivision rule regulation change. Adding the clarification language.
Why don't we do this next meeting?
Okay.
That's a long one, that's important.
It's already in the code for next meeting.
All right.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the court orders as presented?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Okay, moving on to the information agenda, item 3.1, status reports from the department heads.
Do we want to do 2.6A?
Oh, 2.6A, consider, discuss, take appropriate action in making a correction to court order 39555 and 39556 from September 12, 2020, specifically to correct a clerical error in the item number. Ms. Dowdy.
I placed the 5.2 instead of 5.1 after executive session.
I move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the correction of the clerical error in those 2 orders already been identified. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Okay, status reports from department heads. 3.2, status reports from elected officials. 3.3, status reports from liaison commissioners.
I talked to Shane, and this morning, you know, we have some, our walkway problems here at the building, and he's got people in to look at that and give bids this week, 2 different companies, one local and one outside.
But the cones and then the warning tape that's put by that displacement, very helpful.
And what are we gonna do about the one that the city owns back here? That's a
Well,
hazard.
It's been brought to my attention that we may own it, I don't know.
Can we find, how do we find that out?
We'll wait till Heather gets back.
Well, I've been told for years the reason it's in such disrepair is because we don't own it.
Well,
That's why
It is a hazard.
I don't know for a fact, but somebody whispered in my ear that we might actually own it, so we'll check it out. When in doubt, check it out. Okay. So we're going to have a 5-minute break and adjourn, go into executive session. On item 4.2A, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to access and correct steps and pay for an employee. So, 5 minutes. 21, and the court is back in open session. We went into executive session at 10:44 for the record, came out at 11:19, took a short break, and we're reconvening at 11:21. And I'm going to call item 5.1, action as may be required on matters discussed in executive session.
I make a motion that we adjust the stepping grade of the crew chief, supervisor, and road and bridge department to 25.12.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand.
And that
Unanimous,
is
vote.
effective 10/1, whatever it is.
This pay
22.
period.
10/1/22.
Okay.
And then I'll make a second motion that we authorize the pay adjustment to crew chief, supervisor, road and bridge, less taxes and appropriate adjustments.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjust the crew chief supervisor's pay, less taxes and deduction. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Any other business? We are adjourned.